It appears that internal military dissent is mounting, which should tell you something about the state of affairs regarding this war with Iran.
Within the U.S. military, the Center on Conscience and War is reporting it has seen a spike in inquiries from soldiers seeking conscientious objector status.
Because we have so many people and their families who are desperate to find alternatives to being sent to the Middle East. We have a situation where Trump and his team have launched an unprovoked war with no legitimate rationale, no rational justification, and in partnership with a military that has just committed a genocide in the region.
As the Trump administration prepares to move thousands more additional troops towards the region, the Center of Conscience and War, abbreviated as CCW, has recorded 1,000% increase in new conscientious objector clients since the US-Israeli military campaign against Iran began on the 28th of February. The GI Rights Hotline, a separate counseling network, is reporting similar numbers. And yet somehow this story is getting nowhere near the level of media attention that it deserves. According to the director of the CCW, Mike Peisner, he himself is an Iraq war veteran, directors coming from command to the rank and file have been stark. He said, quote, "They are saying a ground war is inevitable, like this is happening. You better get ready." He went on to specify that the message being relayed to the troops currently en route to the Middle East is part of the reason for this spike. And as a result, the number of CO clients have gone to record levels, some being recorded mere hours before deployment.
They have imposed this on the American people, the Iranian people, and tens of thousands of service members and their families who believe this is deeply wrong. We haven't just experienced a surge in calls of inquiries, but a surge in people who have actually started the process of filing as conscientious objectors, which is a right to all service members to refuse to participate. We have had about 1,000% increase in CO clients just since the beginning of the war. And to put that in perspective, some of our counselors have been doing this for many, many decades and did this through the entire global war on terror, through the worst years of the Iraq war, the worst years of the Afghanistan war, the highest levels of civilian casualties in both of those wars. And what they are saying is the level that they are seeing now of new conscientious objector clients that we have taken on is unlike anything they have ever seen before, including the worst years of those wars. And, you have to imagine relatively, right? That's a small percentage compared to the number of people in the military. I'm not saying there's a mass uprising of people who are filing as CO right now. It's a significant number. But those are just the people who have called our organization and sought out our help, even know that this right exists. So how many people in the military do you think know about the Center on Conscience and War? Probably not that many. And so while it's a relatively small number compared to the hundreds of thousands of people in the military, I would imagine a very small subset actually know about our organization. And we find that the more we're able to reach, the more people will be calling us to file this conscientious objection claim.
And this comes as outlets have reported that the Pentagon was preparing to deploy elements of the 82nd Airborne Division. Time magazine also confirmed that 2 Marine units, each carrying roughly 4,500 Marines and sailors, have also been accelerated and rerouted from the Indo-Pacific to the Middle East. And senior military officials were additionally weighing a potential deployment of the 82nd Airborne's Immediate Response Force, a brigade capable of reaching any location on Earth within 18 hours. So with all of that, it's pretty clear that this minimal in scope mission that Mike Johnson keeps talking about is growing arms and legs on the daily.
Congress has the authority to declare war. Shouldn't it have authorized this war? In my view, right now, our military and the commander-in-chief, he is presiding over the completion of an operation that was limited in scope, limited in its objective, and absolutely necessary for our defense. I think that operation will be wound up quickly. By God's grace, it will. That is our prayer for everybody involved, our troops and everyone else. And, of course, for the people of Iran, who are now rising up euphorically to have a chance for freedom, to have an evil, murderous regime removed. It is a great thing and a great time in history, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Mr. Speaker, this is on the ground.
$2 billion is a lot of money. That's the minimum amount of money that is being spent every single day on this war. There are over a dozen families who are burying their loved ones in the United States, and there may be dozens more if this war continues. Prices are skyrocketing, not just in America, but all across the world. Notices just went out from DuPont to their customers that the price of plastic is doubling. The price at the pump in many states is at $4, $5, and going higher. Fertilizer soon to be unaffordable for American farmers. The consequences of this war are stunning in their scope. Higher prices for American businesses and American families, a potential global recession, the wasting of billions of dollars of hard-earned taxpayer dollars.
And here's what is worth noting regarding those who are seeking CO status. One event above all others appears to have contributed to the decision and continues to come up. An event that has seemingly disappeared from the headlines, despite the fact that there are still countless questions that have gone unanswered or just completely ignored. Back on February 28th, the first day of Operation Epic Fury, a missile struck a girls' school in Manab. Iranian authorities confirmed that there are more than 160 deaths, including at least 110 school children between the ages of 7 and 12. And as prisoner, the director of the CCW told Democracy Now! The Manab strike was, quote, the number one thing cited by service members as the breaking point that drove them to file.
What I think is significant is, in the many dozens and dozens and dozens of people I have talked to who have started working on the conscientious objector claim or submitted it with hours to go before deployment, that's something that's been happening too. I haven't talked to any service member who said that they are scared of dying in a war that they don't believe in. They're scared of killing in a war that they don't believe in. They're scared of the long-term moral consequences of their actions in this moment right now.
I mean, that's a pretty astounding statement from a veteran working with those on the front lines. And he went on further to tell The Intercept that the CCW had started more people in the CO process in just the 2 weeks following February 28th than it typically does in an entire year.
Last week you said that we're nowhere near sending ground troops to the Middle East.
I don't talk to people like you about that. I mean, why would I tell you I'm sending or not sending? I don't talk about the military strategy. Who would talk about it? Who would answer a question like that?
What is happening? Just like, listen, Donald Trump himself and Pete Hegseth and top officials with the administration have told us completely backwards explanations for this multiple times. We have heard it will be a few days. Actually, it will take months. No boots on the ground. Also, maybe a draft, and we're sending thousands of troops to the region.
Did you hear about a draft?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, Caroline, well, you were on vacation. I'm glad you got some color.
I wasn't dodging the draft.
Not like our president. We already won. Also, give us $200 billion. We fight with bombs. Also, let's give $14 billion in oil sanctions relief. We're going to end the regime. They'll never get a nuke. Just kidding. Those aren't our goals anymore.
And this is where the story connects to everything that we've been seeing and reporting on here on Meidas, right? Because it's not the first sign of concern inside the system itself. We've already seen reports of military leaders warning about escalation risks only to be ignored. Objections to removing civilian protection safeguards, again ignored.
I want to ask you about this bombing of an elementary school that killed dozens of children and many more civilians. Sources to CNN say that the U.S. military used outdated images of an area that it struck in Iran, which led to that deadly strike. You argue that there was something in place that could have prevented something like this happening. What's the argument?
The argument is that I, a couple years ago, worked alongside my colleagues to pass into law something called the Civilian Protection Center. This is something that's at the Department of Defense, at the Pentagon, something that has personnel who are focused on this effort of ensuring protection of civilians, of reducing the risks that we see unfold here. The problem, though, is Secretary Hegseth decided to gut this office last year, has dramatically reduced down the staff, not implementing the budget that is necessary. Again, this was a bipartisan piece of legislation passed into law that I helped draft. Because of this, I worked at the National Security Council. I've been there for targeting packages for a president to approve. This fault lies directly on President Trump and Secretary Hegseth. They are clearly the ones that gave the orders in terms of how they should go about the risk analysis. And without this type of office, it shows just how much this administration has deprioritized the protection of civilians. And now we find ourselves facing one of the worst losses of life of civilians at the hands of Americans in decades.
And more than a week on, we're still waiting for the full report there to be made public.
There needs to be a thorough investigation.
You're asking for a thorough investigation, as are some of your colleagues. Senator Andy Kim.
Not just of the, thank you.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, not just of the strike, but also why they have cut this office and reduced our abilities to protect civilians.
All right, Senator Andy Kim, I do appreciate you. Thank you for speaking to us this morning. John?
And intelligence officials, including Trump's own counterterrorism appointee, resigning over the war itself. Now, that skepticism is no longer confined to leadership. It seems to be moving down the chain to the people being asked to carry out the very mission. And for the Trump administration, this creates a new kind of problem because criticism from politicians can be dismissed. We have seen that firsthand. Even media criticism can be reframed, especially if you have the likes of Fox News on your side. But when the people being sent into the conflict begin to question it, that carries a different weight.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.